Would you buy a cup of coffee for $20? That's the price Jimmy Butler was selling coffee for during the playoffs last year. Isn't that crazy? My goodness. But hey, what if that's his magic stuff? You know, like how Michael Jordan had his magic stuff in Space Jam. No wonder Jimmy Buckets made it to the finals last year. The question today, though, is can Jimmy Butler bring the Miami Heat back to the finals again this year without his $20 coffee business? It's actually pretty nuts. Hello again, guys. Welcome back to Hoop Reports. Make sure and smash that like button to subscribe so you can continue getting some of the best NBA content that YouTube has to offer. For today's hot and spicy video, I got a question that many people have on their minds, especially if they're a Miami Heat fan, of course. And I gotta say something before we get started. Man, I love the Miami Heat culture of hard work and teamwork. They're a top 5 organization in my books. D. Wade and Chris Bosh may have retired from the league, but it's still Wade country in Miami. And every time there's an important rebound at the American Airlines Arena, I can still see Chris Bosh flying into the air to grab the ball like the season is on the line. After that, it's just 3-ball, corner pocket. Now, back to the all-important question. Can the Miami Heat reach the finals again this year? Good question. I mean, more or less, they pretty much have the exact same roster this year. They were the underdog last year, but went straight to the finals, cruising by the Pacers, the 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Celtics before being ousted by the Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games. Now, aside from Heat fans, not a whole lot of people are talking about the Miami Heat. I mean, Skip and Shannon just talk about LeBron James all day. And Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman just have shouting matches all day. And to be honest, half the time, I don't even know what they're arguing about. Even last year, not a lot of people. No one was thinking the Miami Heat could have made it to the NBA Finals. But some way, somehow, they did. I've been thinking about this, and I'm not sure, guys. I was just about to start reasoning it out loud to myself. So I figured, why not make a video about it? So you guys could reason it out loud with me. So far, the Miami Heat haven't looked like the strongest team in the East, and that's a massive understatement. They started the season really slow. I mean, at one point, they were at 6 wins and 12 losses, and I couldn't believe my eyes that this was the team that represented the East just a few short months ago. And the thing about 2021 is, the Eastern Conference is a different kind of monster this season. If you're a Heat fan, you can make the argument that they were probably tired from last year's finals run. But the Los Angeles Lakers, who won the championship, have looked a lot better than the Miami Heat this season. I really don't think that fatigue has a lot to do with their poor start, because these guys are young professional athletes, and I really think they had enough time to recuperate and get their bodies right. I mean, their oldest player is like Jimmy Butler, who's still in the midst of his prime. And the oldest player on the Lakers is LeBron James, who's like 50 years old, but was still playing MVP basketball prior to when his ankle got tackled by Solomon Hill. The coronavirus can be blamed for some of their early issues this season, but the same can be said about most, if not all teams in the NBA this year. The coronavirus didn't just affect the Miami Heat, it affected all teams in the league, so the playing field is quite level in that regard. Many teams couldn't field their starting units early on in the season, and this didn't stop them from having more impressive starts than the Miami Heat. I mentioned earlier that the Eastern Conference is a different kind of monster this season, and it's going to be the Heat's biggest hurdle before they can get back to the NBA Finals. Last season, the Miami Heat only had to worry about getting by Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, an unproven Philadelphia 76ers, and a weakened Toronto Raptors unit. This year, they have to beat possibly one of the best teams ever assembled in the NBA, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. The Philadelphia 76ers seem to have figured things out under new coach Doc Rivers, and are a force to be reckoned with in every sense of the word. You could say that the Boston Celtics are having a dismal season, but if I were a betting man, I still wouldn't count out Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. This Boston team has firepower, and I think they'll be doing some damage come playoffs. Let's not count out the Milwaukee Bucks either. I know, Giannis has yet to prove himself in the postseason, but we all know how dangerous he can be. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, the big diesel, did pass on the Superman cape to him. The Brooklyn Nets as well have been riddled with injuries since the start of the season, but I really believe that team will be in playing condition come playoffs. This Miami Heat squad is pretty much the same as the one that went on that finals run last year, so I guess that could be looked at by some fans as a positive where chemistry is concerned. They did add some big pieces of Victor Oladipo and 3-and-D specialist Trevor Ariza. What do you guys think? Do you think these two players move the needle for the Miami Heat? Victor Oladipo is very injury-prone, and Trevor Ariza, on the other hand, he's getting up there in age. This guy has a ton of miles on him, and I want to question how much he can really deliver come playoffs. I'm hopeful that these two pieces can work with Bam and Jimmy to push the Heat right through to the finals, so they can face off with the Golden State Warriors, of course. Another positive thing that the Miami Heat's fan base can hold on to is the unselfish nature of the squad. This Miami Heat team really looks out for each other and plays together with a singular goal of winning. With that culture of unselfish playing, maybe the Miami Heat can get some much-needed wins against some stronger teams and battle themselves into opportunities to win some games. I've often heard a lot of people say that good teams always beat good players. What do you think, guys? In terms of team assists per game, the Heat are in the top 10, averaging 26 assists per game. And in terms of team defense, the Miami Heat are in the top 10 in defensive ratings. Even though I can't honestly say that they are anywhere near the strongest team in the Eastern Conference, I must admit that they do have some amount of firepower. Currently, the team has 7 players that are in double digits for scoring this season. Man, that's a lot. Going back to what I said earlier about the unselfish nature of the team, to have 7 players putting up double digits, that means that ball is definitely moving. A team with multiple players that can go out and get you buckets will always be a threat, as the opposing team can't just single out and stop one player. Just for a quick example, the Golden State Warriors are solely relying on Steph Curry, who, by the way, is only averaging 40 points per game over the last 10 games or so. But then comes that paradoxical question: how can you stop something that can't be stopped? Anyways, back to the Heat. Man, I think I'm talking myself into this whole thing about the Heat's getting to the NBA Finals. They really do have a deep roster now that I think about it. In addition to the depth of their team, they have a young and quick-witted coach in Erik Spoelstra. I think Erik Spoelstra might be the best matchmaker when it comes to making adjustments in the playoffs. He's won multiple championships as a coach, gone up against several great teams, and he's been to the playoffs multiple times with different players altogether. So he's got a lot of experience. And I think he could be Miami's sixth man that gives them the edge against winning teams. If you don't get the reference when I said sixth man, back in the day, people would say that if a team had an incredible coach on the sidelines, it's like playing 6 against 5. This was often said about Greg Popovich. Do you guys think that a starting lineup of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Trevor Ariza, Duncan Robinson, and Victor Oladipo can do some damage? I think that they could. It may take a lot of luck and a lot of incredible performances by Jimmy Butler and his $20 coffees, but it's quite possible. I mean, Joel Embiid is quite injury-prone. They seem to have figured out how to slow down Giannis, and we're not sure how Kevin Durant and his team of juggernauts will move under the pressure of the playoffs. So with some luck and some heroics, I think this Heat team has a chance. When I look at their bench, I see guys like Tyler Herro, baller, Kendrick Nunn, baller, Goran Dragic, Dragon, Andre Iguodala, baller. Man, that's a pretty good bench if you ask me. They may have a small team, but man, they play hard. They play really hard. They remind me of the short guys that I play against at my local park. A lot of times taller guys like myself take our height and size for granted and just play around. But the smaller guys on the court are usually hard-nosed and willing to scrap, and that's how I would describe this Miami Heat team. A bunch of grinders. Ooh, wait, I can't say that. Let's just say they play hard and leave it at that. Guys, my next question is, what kind of beers do they drink down there in Miami? Depending on the answer to that question, I may just have to bring my talents down to South Beach.